Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to show you an absolute time capsule of a game, although this one was actually just played last month. I'm playing the absolute classic, the original top-tier Soviet medium tank that was in the game since the alpha, the T-54, and every time I play this vehicle, I feel like a little bit of magic can happen. This is one of those rare occurrences where the matchmaker actually gives you a glimpse of what World of Tanks kind of felt like 5 to 10 years ago. What do you notice about this? Firstly, nice varied matchmaking, at least for me, none of the garbage, lack of variety that you get in the +0, -0, which is an absolute blight on at least my enjoyment of World of Tanks. Combine that with just no overpowered premiums, just 3 premiums on my tank, 2 Super Pershings, and a Carnarvon Action 10. If we look at the enemy list, yeah, there's a bit of an outlier in the BZ-176, but I don't really have too many problems with a TVP, a CS-52 Lease, or an Eagle. We have 2 artillery, and the only real problem with this matchup is that there's a lack of 1 light tank, or at most 2 light tanks, I think, that makes a good game. Now, a few things have changed inside World of Tanks, at least compared to the old school, and that is the ability to be able to switch out the equipment. Because I saw that there were no light tanks, and because I spawned on the west side of the Live Oaks map, I realized that I want to try and progress over towards the east that way. And then eventually I want to have the vision system and the exhaust to perhaps be able to spot out here and to replace the light tank or the lack of light tanks on my team. Now, these games, I mean, just look at the top tier matchup here. 50-120 versus M103, T-54 versus E-50. This is about as old school as it gets. And this is what I just feel that you get less and less and less of. Now, I understand that wargaming needs to monetize, and I understand that the game needs to progress, although... And I just don't know if this is just me, but I don't feel that the progression that we have in the game is actually making it any more enjoyable. I feel like it's just streamlining the game. I feel like it's taking a huge amount of the variety out of the game that actually makes it exciting, and this is what made World of Tanks, at least for me back in the day, feel that it was something that I could sign up and play for hours, and that I've never been presented by the same thing just again and again and again. Because it wasn't the same overpowered premiums. It wasn't the same boring +0, -0 matchups. It was a wide variety of vehicles where it felt like it was a World of Tanks ecosystem, right? A World of Tanks ecosystem where you felt like you were playing a World of Tanks rather than playing just some other kind of MOBA title where things didn't really matter. I'm talking about the addition of durability devices, which make it so that everybody can just drive in and not worry about their tracks getting taken off. I'm talking about the addition of field mods and even just multiple newfangled pieces of equipment, which now means it's this eternal grind to be able to get as much experimental equipment or as much bond equipment as you can on your tank to be able to turn your tank into an overpowered super vehicle. And what kind of vehicles are people putting those pieces of equipment on? They're not putting them on their tech tree tanks, that's for sure. I don't think there's many people out there who are going to go, oh, you know what, I'm going to put my bond equipment or my experimental tier 3 on a 45 TP. And even you can see for me, even though I have Watt Plus, I don't actually bother to demount all of my bounty equipment and use it on all of my vehicles. It would give me a clear advantage, but I feel like that's some pretty extreme pay to win to have in the game, right? That I'm willing to spend $10 a month, so I should be able to demount all of my bounty equipment and give myself like a 1% rate of fire advantage and a 1% crew skill advantage on all of my vehicles, purely because I'm paying wargaming those $10 a month. Now, firstly, I'm not throwing any shade on anyone who does want to do that. Look, the rules are the rules. The game is the game. You should hate you should hate the game and not the players from that kind of perspective, right? So if you want to min-max your vehicles by having Watt Plus and putting bounty equipment on every single one of your vehicles using some kind of demount mod, all the power to you. Just for me, it feels like it will be giving into just the necessity of that kind of pay-to-win advantage to have the edge. I'm pretty sure not more than about 5% of the World of Tanks player base would have Watt Plus, or even at most 10% of the World of Tanks player base would have Watt Plus. And so to become part of that, and it's really surprising to me that not more people actually really complained about Watt Plus. I was there when it was released saying this is pay to win as hell, and luckily Wargaming did tone it down from what was originally going to be Bond equipment demounting for free. That would have been absolutely outrageous. Imagine having yet another percentage of advantage that only the sweatiest of sweaty players who had all of their Bond equipment could be able to demount and be able to put it on all of their vehicles because they're willing to pay $10 a month for that advantage. It would have become more of a necessity than what we have in the form of the bounty equipment. And it seems weird to me that these days, where community contributors are getting grilled so hard about not standing up for the community and so on and so forth, that all of these times in the past where community contributors have been there trying to fight for the integrity of the game and fight for your ability to be competitive inside the game without having to pay Wargaming monthly fees to remain competitive, or even just the idea that they would be skill gating that Bond equipment. You can't really buy a Bond turbo at any time of the year. You can't buy the the Bond rotation devices. Those are kind of exclusives for people who are playing maneuvers, or they're playing Onslaught, or back in the day they were playing Ranked to be able to get those pieces of equipment, right? And to be able to we would have had a position of the game where we would have had only people with Watt Plus being able to demount their Onslaught exclusive equipment to be able to use on all of their vehicles, including their tech tree tanks. It would have been outrageous. And there have been so many times in World of Tanks history where Wargaming have tried their hardest to make this game as pay to win as they possibly can. And so to get into this kind of a matchup where it feels like at least the game isn't over right from the beginning, or at least to feel like I have a chance of being able to come back into this one, even though we're down by 4,000 hit points and a couple of kills of that scenario. I'm quite happy with my restraint to not continue to farm the AFK Tiger and to realize, yeah, he's still going to be there at the end, you know? So I'm going to leave my cake and hopefully be able to eat it later on. So we put one round into the Govika. We're going to use Intuition to switch out to put another heat round into the Govika. And now make our way across to try and find this Eagle, who very rudely put a round into me earlier. So we're going to follow it up. Man, the aim time on this tank is not very good with the gun. Wargaming definitely changed this gun to have extra gun depression, but to definitely have to pay for it with regards to its aim time. But it doesn't stop us. But oh dear. Okay, here we go, guys. Here's the fun, right? BZ176, and I can tell you in the post-game I checked this guy's statistics out. They're like a 55-60% sweaty player, and of course they're playing their BZ176, right? Comes in, delivers 800 damage to my butt. Artillery follows it up, and oh well, yeah, it's over. What are we going to do now, right? We've got a BZ176 on 2/3 of their hit points above us, right? Oh wait, there is something that we can do. We can track this guy. We can lock him down. See if he's going to fall back. He's still got a long reload here. And then I'm going to try and bait him, shoot his tracks again, and do something that you just can't do these days in World of Tanks to the majority of vehicles. And that is lock and outplay. And this is one of the biggest moments and one of my biggest gripes with the game right now, is that you used to be able to do this to players back in the day if you aimed correctly and you hit the tracks and you frankly outplayed vehicles. Locking down tanks' tracks multiple times was a way for even players with lower amount of hit points in a seemingly impossible situation to be able to get through to make an outplay. By adding the durability device, which increased track health, and adding field mods, which further increased track health and reduce track repair time, and large repair kits, which also reduce track repair time, and all of these compounded additions, they allow people to drive around and play like idiots without getting punished from their own mistakes. And this, in turn, creates so much more snowballing inside the game. Previously, people couldn't just YOLO over that ridge line unless it truly was a YOLO because of the fear of being locked down multiple times and not being able to recover from it. Now you can just push through those important choke points, drive around willy-nilly, just as if your vehicle is impervious to having its mobility restricted when making those aggressive plays. And it allows those overpowered vehicles, which people put their fancy durability devices on, to just drive around and as if they don't care. And of course, if you get to a stage in the game where you can just push in relentlessly and it doesn't matter, then of course you're going to have snowballing in the game. Previously, if you were in a 2 versus 4 situation, maybe you could be able to double track one of the vehicles, punish them right up on the ridge with your ally, and then maybe the other 3 players wouldn't just YOLO in. Now it's a case of just they drive over the ridge line, they don't have to worry about anything, and the snowballing happens even faster. The durability device was by far the biggest mistake, I believe, for an addition to the game with regards to preventing these snowballs and from preventing players from turning their vehicles into unstoppable juggernauts. If you think about it, it's just like my T95 build. On my T95 build, I use a durability device and a bounty protection technology. I don't even use a repair kit on that tank, and I've got my track repair down to like 3 seconds. And what kind of a tank, apart from an autoloader, is going to be able to even keep your tracks locked down? And with the T95, it's very hard to be able to track and damage that thing from the front. So you just grind through your opponents. You just prevent them from being able to do anything against you. And while it is funny, right, to be able to drive around the T95 in that kind of an issue, it's also got to the stage where it's kind of unfunny now. Because it's not just the T95s that are using their durability devices. You know, it's IS-7s driving around. And I guess we can all have a good giggle about setting up the IS-7 in a speed build. But when you... Is it a case that is the only way to be able to have fun in the game? And you have vehicles that are clearly just outrageous and unbalanced from that perspective. And also, let me clarify, with the IS-7, it's not actually the durability device that is causing the IS-7 to have that kind of fun aspect. I mean, I don't even use a durability build in my IS-7. But it's just when you can't actually lock down your opponent's tracks, and you can't halt that aggression, there's just no punishment for it. And I truly feel that over the years, Wargaming's goal is to streamline this game, to remove any of those kind of aspects of punishment for mistakes, which now means that people can just drive around as if they're not going to get punished. And then it comes down to not so much about who aims better or who makes the more intelligent play in the situation, but who set their vehicle up and who has the amount of numbers and hit points. Which is what happens in Clan Wars, right? In Clan Wars, it's pretty much a numbers and hit points game because people are good enough to be able to put all of their shots, correct? But it's just so sad in the random queue that I feel that Wargaming are just hell-bent on trying to remove all of the, well, a lot of the skill-based aspects from the game. And they're trying to remove a lot of the hindrances to allowing people to drive around like idiots. And I think it's getting to the stage where this game is starting to become a lot less like chess and a lot more like checkers. And yeah, what a scumbag on the enemy team there in the Lorraine 15555. He drives up against a building and shoots the building to end his existence, rather than give us a fair opportunity to be able to get a Radley Walters medal. So let's be honest, some things in World of Tanks haven't changed, right? Artillery drowning themselves or artillery destroying themselves on buildings. But let me also clarify, don't have any shadow of a doubt, that is a bannable offense. And if I was to be as vindictive as I wanted to go and submit this to Wargaming support, that the player has decided to remove themselves from the battle intentionally, that they would be getting a small but would ramp up suspension depending on how often they would do it. And quite rightly so, because that player denied me the opportunity of getting a Radley Walters medal. And how often have you had opportunities to be able to finish missions or even marks of excellence removed from you by players deciding they just don't want to play anymore at the end of the battle? So what a beautiful game of World of Tanks here. Just wonderful, varied matchmaking, old school tanks playing against old school tanks, and the one outlier in the BZ-176 actually didn't manage to ruin the game as they weren't using a durability device. So fabulous game here for the T-54, high caliber and a Top Gun for those 7 kills. We still managed to break even on credits, actually make a 71,000 credits profit as we were using intuition well. And surprisingly hit 24 out of 25, and this is not a tank which usually is able to do that, and pen 23 of those shells for our 8,000 combined. And man, that BZ176 before I shut him down, 5,700 damage. And yeah, that's just the reality here. That we were lucky enough that there was only one overpowered premium on the enemy team, which was played by an incredibly good player who went on to nearly just demolish that battle. And so this is very telling that if just like one overpowered premium on the enemy team managed to kind of get that result, then no wonder we're having so many awful games with often like a third of the enemy team with 5 players or more are playing those flavor of the month premiums. And honestly, the more that I think about it, the more that these glimpses of World of Tanks past, sure, they can like scratch that nostalgic itch or that vibe to be able to play a version of the game of a time that I think that even now is genuinely better. It's really interesting. If people were to ask me, would I want to go back to the way that World of Tanks was? No, I clearly wouldn't. There are a lot of things that were horrendous about the game back then. But there was kind of like this golden period between 2016 and 2019 where wargaming had kind of fleshed out all of the inconveniences. And we did have this kind of magical time span inside the game. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, it was an absolute pleasure to play this game in the month of June, which really felt like it was a time capsule of World of Tanks past. So these games, they still do exist, but they feel far and few between, as I feel that wargaming's turning World of Tanks from chess into checkers. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you think the reason is why World of Tanks just doesn't feel the same anymore? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Monday, firstly, a happy Bastille Day to all of you lovely French folk out there. Yeah, probably the first English person who said that, right? Only joking. Anyway, to celebrate, Wargaming have got some brand new drops, so I'm going to be giving them out live from 3 o'clock UTC today on my Twitch stream. So come along and tell me what your favorite French tank is, and hopefully in the poll tanks later on we can get a few extra French vehicles in there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.